familiar situations there with the team.
Yeah.
Obviously not memorable ones, but how does that impact practices? And obviously you're still emphasizing those today.
I think our history and our experience is our best teacher, and we look at those as a part of who we are today, but not necessarily anymore as part of our pain. It's a part of our progress. It's knowing that we can be better when those situations come back up, because they will. And sometimes rather than pull a 2-minute situation out of the air, we like to pull them from our past. The UConn one obviously ended up with a celebration in our locker room, which was great. The South Carolina one was a disappointment, but it's just, I think it's an interesting way to attach meaning to the drill, and that's why we do that.
How much closer do you think C.J. Taylor is getting to playing?
I saw him running out here, and I think he's closing in on 90%, which unpadded would be a good sign. I'll have to check with the training staff afterwards. I think if that's the case and he's feeling good after today, I think you could see kind of a acclimation starting on Monday, and that would put him on track to be available and ready to go by the time we're playing. I think any of these situations you have to be ready to adjust when if we hit a hiccup, but he seems to be doing well.
And so, like just using as an example, like Langston Patterson, it seems like he's been playing pretty well. At some point, with Ethan Barr, but not just that position. I mean, there's other guys missing time. When does the starter need to come back, in order to keep their spot?
Well, it's not so much about fighting for their job. I think right now what's happening is you have guys fighting for roles, and they can enhance their role by their performance on the field. Now, when it comes down to it, as the season rolls on, you're gonna go with the hot hand. You're gonna go with the guys that put you in the best position to win. But on defense, you're never talking about playing 11 guys. I'd love to see 20 guys on that side of the ball. It's just a matter, is that 10 snaps, 30 snaps? Is it a 50-50 split? And so certainly Ethan's focus is on getting healthy and reinserting himself as our starting linebacker. But what we've done is strengthened the guys that are around him. And so now, there's going to be an opportunity to keep him fresh as the year goes and play more people, which is the goal.
Coach, after the scrimmage, talked to Langston Patterson. He mentioned the number system and how the players have to earn that. Could you just go a little bit deeper into that and what it takes for a player to maybe get the number that he might want?
Yeah, it's imperfect. First of all, it's meant to be certainly symbolic, but also meaningful to us. I think the idea is, and anymore, there aren't a lot of lessons to me that we learn about what ownership is. There's a lot of entitlement, and I think that's not just a player thing. That's everywhere. I mean, you see it in coaches and administrators. I mean, and CEOs, and so reporters too. That's right. Thank you. And so what we're trying to do is create a culture here where we understand ownership and we understand the absence of entitlement, and we try to find, again, symbolic ways to reinforce that. It's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to be able to actualize it. And when we reset the year, we reset the roster, and we want people to understand that no matter what came before, good performance, bad performance, if you were disconnected from the culture or you were heavily involved, the only thing that matters is what you do moving forward. And so it's a great clean break. And from there, it's about putting in the work to earn your chance to have a number on this team. And we just basically go through a selection process that we've moved to after spring practice, where we take all the data that we've collected in our swap point system and day in, out performance. Some of it is subjective, some of it's objective, where the team votes for the guys that have proven themselves most worthy to select their jersey first. At that point, the top 15 don't have the ability to have their numbers replicated. Beyond that, it has to be based on the guy who selected it first, and then it has to have my blessing too. And it's imperfect, and anytime you're talking about a vote, there's a lot of layers, but I think we're getting closer and closer to having it really representative of, what we want out of the activity, and also representative of their awareness of what it means to have that, earn that number.
I didn't see Junior Uzebu out there today, just like maintenance or
Illness. He was sick today, so he's that was just an illness thing. I expect him back Saturday.
I think I saw you talking to Derek Mason at SEC Media Days, and he's going to be calling games this season. What's your relationship like with him?
Derek and I have known each other since I was at UCLA, and I interviewed with Derek when he was at Stanford. I've always had a ton of respect for him, and obviously when he was in this role as an alum, was always kept in touch, and so I'm excited to see him back involved in the sport. I think he's got great spirit and energy, and I'm happy for him to find a landing spot with SEC Network, and it'll be cool to have him, around and involved.
Coach, what's the challenge as you get deeper into camp? You start to taste the season opener. With your experience in fall camp as a player as well, what is that challenge as you get a little bit deeper?
Well, fall camp is hard, and I think I can remember when in my time in between two-a-days going to Hendricks and questioning everything. Can I do this? Do I want to do this? And I think we've moved past that a little bit as our approach has changed, but I think that those questions are still there. These guys, what they're doing, what they've committed to do, what they're following through on is not for the faint of heart. It shows such a fortitude and a connectedness to the mission we're on. And so, yeah, this is a push week. And I thought today was a good day. I thought the last 2 days we've gone hard, and you noticed that yesterday with a lot of live work and those sessions. Next week is about fine-tuning to get ready for game week. But I think as a coach, you can't lose patience. You got to keep seeing people through in their development. You can't panic. We need to improve areas. We still have a couple weeks left to give attention, and then we'll use every week in the season to keep improving. So you got to maintain a growth mindset, even though there's this stopping point where you realize you shift from preparation cycle to execution cycle, and you have to be ready for that, but also you have to leave room for continued growth and development.
Do you then next week, with I think that being the second to last, or the last non-game week, is that to what extent do you bring in Hawaii stuff for next week?
It will be later in the week. We'll start to introduce it, and I think that just depends. I think there's always a negative return to spending too much time on any opponent, right? So you can get to the point where you burn out a little bit. We need to keep focusing on us, and I think the goal for every game we play is that once we line up, we're playing the best version of Vanderbilt football. That'll be no different from game one, but we will start to bleed them in ahead of game week just to start to familiarize. And it's a nice transition too. I think everyone welcomes the opportunity to say, hey, we're about to play an opponent. Let's start looking at what they're doing.